The crown prince was assassinated, and I risked my life to save him. The emperor asked me what reward I wanted. My ears turned red as I looked at the refined and elegant crown prince. I was just about to ask the emperor to grant us a marriage. Suddenly, I heard the inner thoughts of my maid behind me. Whatever you do, don't ask for a marriage decree, my dear mistress. The crown prince's true love is Xianwei. That heartless prince wants to keep the support of the general's estate, but he can't bear for his beloved to be just a secondary consort. The first thing he'll do after taking the throne is wipe out the entire Chu clan, all 742 of them. He won't even spare the nursing puppies at your home. I was stunned. When the emperor asked me again what reward I wanted, I blurted out, I want nothing at all. The emperor and the crown prince were speechless. At the palace banquet, two assassins disguised as dancers launched an attack. The personal guards formed a semicircle to protect his majesty. The attack was sudden. The crown prince's side was left unguarded and exposed. Seeing the crown prince in grave danger, I grabbed a wine cup from the table and threw it at the assassin. The assassin paused for a moment. I immediately threw myself in front of the crown prince. The imperial guards arrived just in time to capture the assassin. The emperor was greatly pleased and looked at me kindly as he asked, Lady Chu, tell me yourself, what reward do you want from me? Whatever you ask for, I shall grant it. Everyone in the capital knows I am infatuated with the crown prince. Many people were already glancing frequently at the crown prince. People around me were already whispering guesses, saying I would use this favor to force his hand and have the emperor grant a marriage between me and the crown prince. I also looked toward the crown prince. I saw him in his ochre yellow python robe, looking incredibly noble and graceful. So what if I use this favor to my advantage? I have grown up with the crown prince since we were children. I am deeply in love with him. The mere thought of being able to stay by the crown prince's side every day made my heart beat wildly. I was just about to open my mouth to ask the emperor for the marriage decree when I suddenly heard the inner thoughts of my maid behind me. Whatever you do, don't ask for a marriage decree, my dear mistress. The crown prince's true love is Miss Shen. That heartless prince wants to keep the support of the general's estate, but he can't bear for his beloved to be just a secondary consort. I was shocked that Hong Ying had spoken so recklessly before the emperor. I forced myself to remain calm and turned to look at her. I saw her lips hadn't moved. She stood there with a humble, obedient expression. Seeing that the others didn't seem to hear Hong Ying's thoughts, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. But suddenly Hong Ying's roaring, mournful wail echoed in my mind again. The first thing he does after taking the throne is wipe out the entire Chu clan, all 742 of them. He won't even spare the family's nursing puppies. Wipe out the entire Chu clan. These words struck my mind like a thunderbolt. I suppressed my anxiety and observed the crown prince closely. I saw him glancing frequently toward Shen Yue, even from a distance. I could clearly see the woman crying like rain. The crown prince gazed at her, his usual icy expression, now filled with swirling emotions. The two of them were truly, as Hong Ying said, kindred spirits. Perhaps my gaze toward the crown prince was too intense, for he seemed to notice and turn toward me. Our eyes met, and I saw a hint of disgust in his gaze. So his indifference was that obvious. It is hateful that I was blinded by my own infatuation, nearly bringing death upon my entire clan and even a litter of puppies. The emperor saw me dazed, but he did not take offense. He patiently asked me once more what reward I desired. My father coughed softly beside me to remind me. I blurted out, "Your subject would like a hammer." My father erupted into a fit of coughing upon hearing this. I was worried the old man might cough himself into a faint. Seeing the crowd's looks of utter disbelief, I repeated myself. I have heard the Tubo kingdom presented a 1,000-pound hammer as tribute. Your subject has long admired its fame, and humbly requests your majesty bestow it upon me. I was born with immense strength. At 3, I could draw a 70-pound bow. At 5, I could lift the stone lions at the general's mansion gate over my head. At 7, in a tug of war, I beat 20 uncles who were ranking deputy generals all by myself. I know every weapon in the general's mansion by heart, but they always felt too light, not quite suitable for my use. My father was always delighted by my unnatural strength, saying I had the demeanor he had in his youth. My mother worried my strength would damage my reputation, making it hard to find a match, and rarely let me practice with weapons in my daily life. When I was young, I couldn't control my strength well. I once tore the crown prince's robes, leaving him exposed. He often said I had the strength of a man and was quite vulgar, unlike other noble ladies so delicate and frail. Thinking back now, the crown prince never really liked me. It was all just my own wishful thinking. beating. The bitterness in my chest spread upward to my throat. But fortunately, no major disaster occurred. There is still time. Sticking to the creed that if there is a freebie, take it or you're a fool. Since I can't ask the emperor to grant a marriage, asking for a hammer isn't so bad. Besides, I had truly admired that 1,000-pound hammer for a long time. The emperor glanced without leaving a trace between me and the crown prince. Finally, with a royal decree, he bestowed the 1,000-pound hammer upon me. He also awarded me 10,000 taels of gold. I sat on my horse, cradling the heavy hammer, feeling as if I were in a dream. Hong Ying, for her part, was much happier than before we entered the palace. La la la, no need to be wiped out along with the 9 clans. Tonight, I'll eat an extra bowl of rice. No, I'll eat 2 big bowls. I heard Hong Ying's cheerful little tune in my mind, and even the heartache within me was softened a bit. Family alive and well, kin safe and sound. This is more important than anything else. Wei, my girl, I thought you would beg His Majesty for a marriage to the crown prince. I never imagined you wouldn't say a single word about it. Father asked, looking confused. Father, haven't you always disliked me being with the crown prince? Father deliberated for a moment before speaking. Though your father is just a rough soldier, I could still see that you were fond of the crown prince. But in public, I hold great military power. The emperor dislikes when a future crown princess's family is too powerful. I never cared about military power. If you truly became the crown princess, I would return the tiger tally to the emperor and retire from service. But in private, my girl, the crown prince's heart is not with you. You have always been simple-minded. Without the crown prince's love and protection in the Eastern Palace, you would surely face endless hardships. Your mother and I don't want you trapped in that world. Besides, my precious daughter deserves the best man in the world. Only if he treats you like a treasure will your parents be willing to let you marry. Otherwise, you can just stay at the general's manor as a young lady for the rest of your life. Your father and I have the means to provide for you. After hearing father's words, the last bit of bitterness in my heart turned into tears and fell. Those romantic notions I had for the crown prince also vanished completely. My parents cherish me as an invaluable treasure, while the one I hold dear views me as a monster to be feared. I am now immensely grateful that I did not beg the emperor to grant a marriage. Rest assured, father, I have no more attachment to the crown prince. Unconsciously, my hand traced the patterns on the 1,000-pound hammer. I weighed it in my hand. What a magnificent hammer it is. Father, let's spar when we get home. My little girl, my father exclaimed, surprised by how quickly I changed my demeanor. Come now, have mercy on your old man's brittle bones. I still want to spend many more years with your mother. I'll drop you off at the barracks up ahead. Go find your brother and play. Sounds good. Just as I entered the camp, I noticed everyone looking anxious as they ran toward the back mountain. I stopped one of them. What happened? The 9th prince and the general were ambushed on the back mountain. We are rushing to their rescue now. The man ran off immediately after saying that, if anything were to happen to the 9th prince in my brother's camp, my brother would be held responsible for negligence. The light punishment would be exile, the severe one, beheading. I hurriedly instructed Hong Ying, wait for me here. I'm going to help my brother. My lady, my lady. Without waiting for Hong Ying to finish, I grabbed my hammer and charged toward the back mountain. Father had taught me the technique of the glowing ray, a form of tracking. I observed the traces in the grass as I ran. Soon, I discovered an anomaly. The grass here had just been trampled upon. There were even a few drops of blood on the leaves. Someone was wounded, their footsteps unsteady and weak. Not far behind them, there were 4 or 5 people tailing them. These people possessed excellent lightfoot skills, leaving only the faintest marks when they pushed off the ground to move forward. I raced ahead, hauling my hammer. Finally, I caught sight of them a few hundred meters ahead. 4 masked men were surrounding someone on the ground. I shouted out, stop. One of them turned and charged toward me. I stamped the ground hard, using the force to leap up. I swung the giant hammer, producing a dull roar that sounded like rolling thunder. The man tried to dodge, assuming the weight of the hammer would slow down my strikes. Unfortunately for them, I possess supernatural strength. The giant hammer is as light as a dagger in my hands. I quickly adjusted my stance and swung it toward him. He couldn't dodge in time and took the full blow. Without even a groan, he collapsed and died on the spot. In the face of absolute power, all techniques are just smoke and mirrors. The remaining 3, seeing this, used their movement skills to flee. I walked over to the man on the ground and helped him up. Fortunately, he only had a leg injury and nothing vital was harmed. The man's complexion had paled from the blood loss, adding a touch of fragility to his features, making him look even more handsome than the crown prince. I gulped and asked, Your 9th Highness, are you all right? The 9th prince curled his lips. I am fine. Many thanks to you, Lady Chu, for saving me. You know who I am. Strange, I don't recall ever seeing the 9th prince. I have seen you a few times in the palace. Only your eyes were always fixed on the crown prince. He said the last part so softly that I didn't quite hear it. What did you say? A look of complexity flashed across his eyes. Nothing. Seeing that he didn't want to speak, I didn't push further. I squatted down in front of him and patted my back. Your Highness, we cannot stay here long. Climb on, I will carry you back. As I finished speaking, his earlobes turned slightly red. No need, this prince can walk on his own. With that, he limped past me. Does this man think I'm incapable? Could he really think I can't carry him? I stepped forward and grabbed his wrist. As he fell backward, I caught him and swept him up into my arms. Once I held him, I gave him a little bounce. Kid, I could carry two of you without any trouble. He looked at me in complete disbelief, his face blushing, his speech stuttering. Lady Chu quickly put me down. Men and women should not touch. How pedantic. When your life is on the line, what use are those rituals? The assassins from just now might still have accomplices. The longer we stay here, the more danger we are in. The ninth prince's body went completely rigid. His voice trailed off, becoming softer. Then I shall trouble Miss Chu. Why is this man acting like a shy young girl? I continued speaking. Hold on tight. The tips of the ninth prince's ears turned so red they looked like they might bleed. He hesitated for a moment before wrapping his arms around my neck. I then carried him and picked up the pace toward the camp. Anxious to return, I naturally didn't notice the look he gave me behind my back. I dismissed the secret guards following behind us. A quarter of an hour later, I encountered Hongying, who had been anxiously waiting outside the camp. Seeing bloodstains on me, Hongying assumed I was injured. She rushed toward me in a panic. Miss, are you hurt? Then, she glared with dissatisfaction at the ninth prince in my arms. Next, I heard Hongying's inner thoughts. This pretty boy is so shameless, Miss is injured. Yet he still makes Miss carry him. The ninth prince seemed to notice Hongying's hostile gaze. He said softly in my ear, Miss Chu, put me down. I can walk on my own. As he drew closer, a crisp scent of pine filled the air. I nodded, flustered, but didn't let go. It's only a few more steps, let me get you to the tent first. I turned to reassure Hongying. This blood isn't mine, the ninth prince is the one who was hurt. Go fetch the army surgeon quickly. Upon hearing this, Hongying trotted off while acknowledging the order. Goodness gracious. Is he really that crazed, psychopathic ninth prince who kills without blinking? He just glanced at me, and my scalp went numb. Could it be that my expression wasn't well managed? Did he notice something? Oh my miss, you must save my life. Miss Chu, you and your servant seem to have a very close relationship. Hongying grew up with me. I treat her like a younger sister. If she has offended the ninth prince, please do not blame her. I do not blame her at all. I looked down at the ninth prince in my arms. His features were stunningly beautiful. But why did Hongying say he kills without blinking? The ninth prince seemed to sense something and looked up at me. As our eyes met, his face flushed slightly red, like a startled little white rabbit. He asked me softly, what is wrong? I caught my breath and smiled at him. Nothing. Even if he kills people, someone must have provoked him. After all, even a rabbit will bite when pushed too far. Seeing the ninth prince had returned, others had already fired a signal flare into the sky to notify my brother to return to camp. By the time my brother returned to the camp, the old military doctor was dressing the ninth prince's wounds. After entering, my brother cupped his hands and knelt on one knee. I arrived late to assist. Please, your highness, forgive me. I and everyone else in the camp knelt on the ground, alongside my brother. The ninth prince raised his right hand in a gesture of dismissal. Everyone, there is no need for such formalities, rise. The event happened suddenly, General Chu. You need not blame yourself. I shall keep in my heart the kindness of being saved by you today, miss. Upon returning to the palace, I will report this to the emperor and arrange for a reward. My brother replied modestly, Your highness is too kind. Protecting our master is but our duty. The ninth prince smiled at the corners of his mouth, lifted his eyes and swept a glance at me. I touched my nose and lowered my head, feeling quite guilty. After seeing the ninth prince off, my brother became incredibly angry. He reprimanded me for being reckless and impulsive, saying that if any harm had come to me, how would he ever answer to our parents back home? Seeing me looking distracted and indifferent, he gritted his teeth and threatened me, saying he would confiscate my 1,000-pound hammer. What? Terrified, I quickly pulled myself together and began a deeply remorseful self-reflection for him. Only after I promised repeatedly not to act recklessly again did he reluctantly let me off the hook. By the time we returned to the manor, the family had just received the emperor's rewards. On top of that, Princess Yang had sent me an invitation, inviting me to attend a flower viewing banquet next month. The four of us, our family, put our heads and shoulders together, forming a circle. I looked miserable and let out a sigh. Family, I don't want to go to the princess's flower viewing banquet. Reciting poetry, painting, flower arranging, tea ceremonies. I'm not good at any of those things. It'll be so boring if I go. My brother raised an eyebrow and teased me. Could it be that you still have lingering feelings for the Crown Prince? I do not. My dear daughter, let's forget about the Crown Prince. Your father is right. I agree that you should go to the banquet. There are plenty of talented young men from noble families. Choose whomever you like. My dear daughter, if you don't like academic studies, how about father finds you a young general instead? I agree. There are plenty of fine young men in the army as well. I'll keep an eye out for you, Wei Wei. The three of them kept going back and forth with their suggestions, and I couldn't even get a word in. They were chattering so much my head started to buzz. Finally, I raised my hands in surrender. Fine, I'll go. Will that satisfy you? My brother was so untrustworthy. He deliberately exaggerated things in front of father and mother, talking about how the 9th prince was ambushed and how I recklessly rushed in and faced such terrible danger. He scared them so much they clutched their chests and immediately ordered me to be grounded for a month. How hateful. I was so angry that night. I shaved the mane off several of my brother's warhorses. That'll show him, riding a bald horse to the barracks. Once the 9th prince heard I was grounded, he scoured everywhere for all sorts of interesting things for me, ranging from Western blades and martial arts manuals, down to imperial pastries and grass-woven crickets from the streets. In short, he had it all. I looked forward to whatever curious gift he would send next, but it wore out Hongying, who had to run errands for me every day. Every time her little face would scrunch up in annoyance, wishing she could just throw all the gifts away. She believed the 9th prince was being manipulative and feared he might mean me harm, but I didn't see it that way. The 9th prince grew up in the palace after his mother passed away young, as a small child without his mother's protection. If he were truly naive, he wouldn't have survived until today. On the day of the flower viewing banquet, Hongying dragged me out of bed at the crack of dawn to get me dressed and ready. My young mistress looks absolutely stunning. It is a good thing that jerk of a crown prince didn't get to see this. Ever since I started hearing Hongying's inner thoughts, I'd catch her venting about the crown prince every so often, or speaking in ways that sounded rather strange. I was afraid others would think Hongying was possessed, so I never told anyone that I could hear her thoughts. Once we reached the princess's back garden, I took Hongying away from the crowd and wandered toward a quieter area. Princess Kaoyang and I had never gotten along, simply because neither of us was any good at poetry or literature, and we both preferred wielding blades and spears instead. And as I have been competitive since I was young, I never curried favor with Princess Joyang like the others did. In my eyes, so what if she is a princess? If she wants to win first place on the training grounds, she must rely on her own skills. As for the 6 arts, including horse riding, I have always outperformed Princess Joyang. Therefore, when we meet, it is like a clash between 2 sharp blades, neither willing to give an inch. Just like now, Princess Zhaoyang and a group of noble ladies, including Shen Yinyue, are walking towards us. Princess Zhaoyang steps forward with a spirited air. What an unexpected encounter. I curtsy to Princess Zhaoyang in greeting. Your humble servant Chu Xianwei offers the princess my respects. After the ritual, I stand to the side with my head bowed. Princess Zhaoyang naturally wouldn't miss a chance to kick me while I'm down. Some people are like toads lusting after swan meat, lingering around Crown Prince every single day, thinking they can get what they want just by being close. But who would have guessed? Crown Prince only has sister Yinyue in his heart. Shen Yinyue blushes and feigns shyness. Princess, please don't tease me. You're embarrassing me. I am not teasing you at all. Crown Prince himself asked the Empress for a marriage decree. Good heavens. I hope my young lady's obsession doesn't flare up now. Go away, go away. Stay away from my young lady, you scumbag Crown Prince. I am speechless. In that moment, everyone's eyes turned to me. The mockery is laced with several malicious sneers. Perhaps because I didn't respond, Princess Zhaoyang asks, pretending not to know why. Chu Xianwei. What do you think about the marriage between Crown Prince and Sister Yinyue? Shen Yinyue covers her mouth and chuckles, a flash of smugness in her eyes. With a calm expression, I congratulate Shen Yinyue. A match made in heaven. Congratulations, Miss Shen. Princess Zhaoyang pauses in surprise. Perhaps she didn't expect me to react so indifferently. Finding it uninteresting, she leads the noble ladies away. I rub my hands together twice, walking greedily toward the 10,000 carp pond. Hongying, let's go. I'm taking you to catch some big carp. Those large carp have been fed quite well by Princess Zhaoyang. They must be delicious. Hongying, standing nearby, is dumbfounded. Wait. What? Here I was worried that my lady would be crushed by the insults. To think her appetite was the only thing on her mind. My lady, this isn't a good idea. I heard those koi are the princess's most precious treasures. Eating her precious treasures is exactly what I plan to do. That'll teach her for poking at my nerves earlier. In the 10,000 koi pond, the colorful carp were vigorously flicking their plump tails. I pointed to the fattest red koi and bragged. That one grilled would be so oily and delicious. And that one salt and pepper fried nice and crispy. Audacious. Who are you? To dare covet the princess's prized koi. Just as I was happily making my plans, some girl appeared out of nowhere and glared at me with fury. I dug at my ear and looked at her. And who are you? Which eye of yours saw me touching the princess's koi? I heard it with my own ears. You said you were going to turn them into grilled and fried fish. Don't think I won't tell the princess. I scoffed. Go right ahead. With that, I turned and strode away. But the girl clung to me, desperate to stop me. However, the path by the pond was rocky, and she lost her footing. She stumbled and lunged toward me. I quickly took a step back to dodge her. Don't touch me. The girl couldn't stop her momentum. She fell straight toward the pond, on the verge of becoming fish bait. I took 2 big steps forward and hauled her up. I wiped the sweat from my forehead. If you want to fish, wait until I've left. The girl gritted her teeth in rage, then instantly changed her expression. She put on a look of utter terror. She collapsed onto the ground. I was baffled. Is this girl a master of Sichuan opera face changing? I beg your highness the princess to grant me justice. I encountered Lady Chu at the 10,000 koi pond. She wanted to eat the princess's koi, so I tried to persuade her kindly. I never expected her to not only spew insults, but also attempt to push me into the pond. If not for your highness and the ladies arriving just in time, I fear that Princess Zhou Yang stared at me, her eyes wide as saucers. Chu Xianwei, I knew your gentle docile act earlier was all a performance. What the heck? The princess's tone is full of anger, yet it seems to hold a hint of excitement. The next moment, Shen Yinyue flings herself onto the ground, like a moth to a flame. Oh, princess, this is my younger stepsister, Shen Ping. I suspect Miss Chu was overcome with jealousy upon hearing the news of my upcoming betrothal to the crown prince, and acted out in an irrational moment. Please, princess, do not blame her. Shen Yinyue's words appear to be speaking up for me, but every sentence implies that I pushed Shen Ping into the water. I can bear witness for Miss Chu. It was clearly Miss Shen's younger sister, who fell into the pond all on her own. Miss Chu risked her life to save Miss Shen, yet she is being repaid with such ingratitude. The 9th prince steps out from behind the rockery. How long has this guy been hiding there? Evidently, Shen Ping realizes this too. Her arms are trembling slightly. After meeting Shen Yinyue's cold, sharp gaze, Shen Ping repeats with more bravado than conviction. It was Chu Xianwei who pushed me. Princess Yang sweeps her phoenix-like eyes back and forth between us. Are you suggesting that my 9th brother is lying? Besides, Chu Xianwei has always been one to own her actions. If she had done it, she would certainly admit it. Hong Ying gazes at the princess with sparkling eyes. Truly, the one who understands the young miss best has to be the princess, her own rival. I'm cheering for the princess, good on her. Even I didn't expect the princess to believe me. Shen Ping looks completely lost, like she's given up all pretense. If you didn't push me, why did you save me? Once I heard that, I thought, she has a point. I walk straight up to her and give her a good shove. Off you go then. Shen Ping flies into the pond like a kite with a broken string. That time, I actually did push you. Consider saving you earlier as us being even. The 9th prince chuckles, a flash of admiration in his eyes. In the end, it is the princess who calls over a nursemaid who knows how to swim to fish Shen Ping out. She adds, unhurriedly, Miss Shen, do take your sister home to get her brain checked out. She can't even tell whether or not someone actually pushed her. Yes, Shen Yinyue replied, biting her lower lip with a humiliated expression. She then hurriedly led Shen Ping away. I turned around and looked at the princess with a smile. My deepest thanks to your highness for speaking up for me. Princess Yang gave a cold snort and replied with a haughty air. Don't think that I did this because I like you. I simply cannot tolerate any injustice. With that, Princess Yang swept away with her entourage in a grand procession. In the end, only the 9th prince and I remained, for reasons unknown. Where did Hong Ying go? The 9th prince smiled at me first. Hong Ying has worked hard lately delivering gifts for me. I had my men take her off to enjoy some pastries from Xiangman Tower. I hurriedly took 2 steps forward and said with a beaming smile, please don't spoil that gluttonous girl. I also thank you, your highness, for testifying on my behalf just now. He touched my hair and sighed softly. You are my savior. It is only natural that I protect you. My mind went blank for a moment, and I said half-jokingly, then how about you offer your hand in marriage? The 9th prince gazed at me with a smile in his eyes. There seemed to be tiny, shimmering stars in the depths of his eyes. Very well. I froze, then quickly laughed it off. I was only joking with you, your highness. Pray, do not take it seriously. The 9th prince stopped smiling and whispered in my ear, his breath soft as an orchid. He said in a serious tone, what if I did take it seriously? I was stunned, not knowing how to respond to him. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. After a long pause, the 9th prince's eyes turned red. He gave a self-deprecating smile. I have overstepped, Miss Chu. I am merely a prince born of a concubine, and in every aspect my appearance cannot compare to the crown prince. It is only natural that you would not think highly of me. As soon as he finished speaking, tears began to fall from the ninth prince's eyes like broken pearls, dripping down one after another. Oh, this. It was my first time seeing a man cry, and I was instantly thrown into a panic. Watching him wipe his eyes vigorously, my heart twisted into a knot. It felt terribly painful. In my panic, I grabbed both of his hands. No. You look much better than the crown prince. You are kind-hearted and have a strong sense of justice. And you have given me so many gifts. I love every single one of them. You know me better than I know myself. No, wait, I didn't mean you're a parasite. Anyway, in my eyes. You are the finest person in all the world. The ninth prince looks down at my hand, a corner of his lip curling up. Am I truly as wonderful as you say? Of course you are. I nod emphatically. Upon hearing this, the ninth prince smiles at me. Then I shall beg the emperor to grant us a marriage decree. I blink, bewildered. How did he manage to circle back to that again? Seeing my silence, his beautiful phoenix-like eyes fill with tears once more. Why is this man such a crybaby? Before his tears can fall, I go along with what he said and hurriedly say, All right, a marriage decree it is. Besides, marrying the ninth prince, if the crown prince ever decides to wipe out my entire Chu clan after he takes the throne, he'll have to think twice about it. The ninth prince is stunned for a moment, a faint blush appearing on his face, and his speech becomes hesitant and stammering. I shall head to the palace at once to ask for the emperor's blessing. He says this and starts walking away visibly overjoyed, but he turns back, pulls me into his embrace, his tone filled with undisguised happiness. Wait for me. My ear tips turn red, and I answer in a voice no louder than a mosquito's buzz. After the ninth prince leaves, I catch a glimpse out of the corner of my eye. I don't know when Hongying returned. She had been eating a pastry, but now her mouth hangs wide open, and the pastry drops onto the floor with a thud. She raises her fists and starts pummeling the man beside her. So you tricked me into leaving. Just so you could help your master trick our young miss into marriage. I'm never eating your snacks again. First we get rid of that dog of a crown prince, and now a green tea ninth prince shows up. Why is there always some pig looking to root through my vegetable patch? Are you trying to be the death of me? The man panics and whispers in his defense. I didn't mean to trick you. He then bows to me. My lady, I am a secret guard to the ninth prince. My rank is 15. You may simply call me 15. On my master's orders, I am to guard your side starting today. Hearing the title, my lady, I recall the ninth prince's teary-eyed expression once more. My brow twitches, and I raise a hand. Get up, 15. I paused, then corrected him. And please, just call me Miss like Hongying does. The imperial decree for our marriage hasn't been issued yet. Yes, miss. Very well, you may withdraw. As you command. With that, 15 vanished into the shadows. That night, thunder and lightning raged outside the room. Hongying kept glancing toward the door. I teased her. What are you looking for? Worried about 15. Who is worried about him? Hongying stiffened her neck and said indignantly, That lying jerk. He deserves to be struck by lightning. No sooner had she spoken than a thunderclap shook the sky. Terrified, Hongying turned pale and hurriedly pressed her palms together. Oh heavens, I was just joking. She spat on the ground for luck. Tui. Ignore the bad, keep the good. Seeing her say the opposite of what she felt was absolutely hilarious. I stopped teasing her. Go on, let 15 rest in the side room. Find him some clean clothes. And go to the kitchen to get him some ginger soup to warm him up. If he refuses, tell him it is my order. I'll go right now. Hongying couldn't bear to meet my eyes, and scurried away in a flash. I shook my head with a smile all bark and no bite. Girls are truly hard to hold on to. Wind and rain battered the window, and I rose to approach it. Just as I reached to close it, a hand suddenly grabbed the sill. I seized the intruder's hand and yanked him into the room. Wei, it is me. Your Highness. What are you doing here? The candlelight caught the contour of his profile, bestowing upon him a captivating, soul-snaring charm. Wei. I have already petitioned the emperor to grant us a marriage. The imperial decree will reach the general's residence tomorrow. I wanted to be the first to tell you this wonderful news, but surely you didn't have to come tonight. Do you not wish to see me? The ninth prince looked at me mournfully. I quickly waved my hands in denial. No. I mean, it is a storm tonight. You haven't been fully recovered for long. What if you catch a cold again? What would we do then? The ninth prince's lips curled into a smile. Is Wei worried about me? I'm so happy. He reached into his robe and pulled out a plum blossom hairpin. This was my mother's favorite hairpin. I want to give it to you. He gently tucked the hairpin into my hair. Wei, you look so beautiful. Rumor had it that noble consort Li was the most beautiful in all the 6 palaces back then. She had secured her position in the palace simply through her looks. It is a pity she had such a tragic fate. She suffered severe hemorrhaging while giving birth to the ninth prince prince and fell ill. She passed away just a few years later. At the thought of this, I felt a surge of pity for the 9th prince. Your Highness, from now on, my family is your family too. Thank you, Wei Wei. My name is Zhao Bingsheng, and my courtesy name is Ziyu. Wei Wei, would you mind calling me Ziyu from now on? All right, Ziyu. The 9th prince hugged me even tighter, as if he wanted to meld me into his very being. The next day, 2 imperial edicts were issued from the palace. One for the crown prince and Shen Yenyue, the other for me and the 9th prince. The emperor also specifically ordered that Shen Yenyue and I attend the autumn hunt in 3 days. My father, mother, and brother were there. They calmly accepted the imperial decree. It was only after the imperial attendants had left that father and mother sat formally in the main hall, and my brother took his seat at the head of the east side. What is this all about? Are you treating me like a criminal in a trial? I straightened my back. The 9th prince and I. Father started counting on his fingers. Ever since you saved the 9th prince, he has been hunting for all sorts of interesting things to make you happy. Your father knew right then that the 9th prince had a crush on you. I didn't expect him to be so sincere, to have requested an imperial decree for your marriage so quickly. He is so much better than that other one. What do you mean by that? Because of this, the 9th prince has been subtly asking me about Wei Wei's preferences. At Princess Zhou Yang's flower banquet, the 4th Miss Shen falsely accused the eldest daughter of pushing her into the water. And it was the 9th prince who testified for the eldest daughter. There is more. Whenever the 9th prince is with the eldest daughter, he never refers to himself as this prince. He always says, I. Hong Ying, you were the one cursing him the loudest in your heart yesterday. Forgot so soon. You must have fallen for that guy's pretty boy act. Really? Mother covered her mouth, her eyes filled with the look of someone watching a romance unfold. Wei Wei, the 9th prince truly treats you wonderfully. Hong Ying, tell me more. I was speechless. A whole family of gossips. It's truly one of a kind. Perhaps because the weather for the autumn hunt was so perfect, the prey, raised within the imperial hunting grounds, were all sleek and well-fed. The only downside was that the 9th prince and I got lost. I had wanted to track a deer within the hunting grounds, since it was the prize for the day. As a result, we unknowingly reached the edge of the grounds. When I looked up again, I realized we were hopelessly lost. I had originally intended to rely on my tracking skills to find our way back, but to make matters worse, it started to snow. The landscape was nothing but a vast white expanse. We finally managed to find a cave that could shelter us, but the entrance was blocked by a massive boulder. Wei Wei, step aside. Let me push this giant rock away. I felt a moment of confusion. Is it possible I haven't been showing enough of my true strength lately, leading him to overlook my capabilities? In order not to embarrass him, I took his hands with a sincere expression. Ziyu, there is no need for you to lift a finger for such a small matter. Your injuries from last time haven't fully healed yet. Wei Wei, my body is perfectly fine. I reached out and placed my index finger on the 9th prince's lips. As they say, when men and women work together, the burden is lighter. I'll move the stone, you go gather some branches. We can roast a rabbit to eat in a bit. Be a good boy, it is settled. Life is hard, so Wei Wei has to put on a show. I'll listen to you. I'm going to gather branches now. That is a good boy. Seeing the 9th prince happily running off into the forest to gather branches, my heart softened into a puddle. I turned to study the boulder, feeling for the leverage point with my hands. Then, gathering my internal energy, I shouted aloud. Heave. The giant rock was slowly shifted to the side by me, revealing the pitch-black entrance of the cave. The 9th prince trotted over with branches in his arms, his tone full of admiration. Wei Wei, you're amazing. You know it. We cleared a space inside the cave, piled the branches together, and lit a fire. Then, we set the rabbit over the campfire to roast. I must say, the rabbits in the imperial hunting grounds are truly plump. The rabbit started to sizzle as the fat dripped off, and an enticing golden-brown aroma filled the air. My stomach gave an uncooperative growl. The 9th prince reached out and tore off a rabbit leg. Wei Wei, you eat first, I'll handle the roasting. You eat first. I swallowed hard, feigning a bit of modesty. The 9th prince paused. Perhaps he was hungry too. He took it back. I really wanted to slap myself. Why the act? I turned my head to eye the other leg. It is fine, there are still 3 legs left on the rabbit. 2 legs each isn't bad. Just as I was about to reach for the other leg, the 9th prince suddenly said, Careful, it is hot, let me do it. He then pulled a small, exquisite dagger from his robes and spread a handkerchief over a stone. Only then did he patiently begin slicing meat off the leg with the blade. The campfire light reflected on his handsome and refined features, making him look like an ethereal being bathed in a soft glow. He is just so good-looking. I felt my focus drift for a moment. I suppose I was bedazzled by his beauty. When the 9th prince held out the sliced meat, meat. I subconsciously leaned in and took it directly. The tip of my tongue accidentally brushed against his finger. I froze. The ninth prince froze too. When I came to my senses, my face turned bright red. The ninth prince looked at me, and I averted my gaze. Why did you stop eating? Or perhaps you think I am more appetizing than the food. Not hungry anymore. Shameless. Don't think I can't tell. He is bragging about being easy on the eyes. Eat. Why wouldn't I eat? I said, reaching out to grab a few pieces of meat and stuffing them into my mouth. I didn't stop until my belly was round and full. The ninth prince leaned toward me and blinked his eyes gently. He drew another handkerchief from his robes. I was quite curious. Just how many handkerchiefs does he carry? The ninth prince looked at me with doting eyes, then chuckled as he raised his sleeve to wipe the corners of my mouth. I was stunned, then realized he was wiping my mouth for me. Thank you. Ziyu. The ninth prince's health had not fully recovered. Not long after finishing the rabbit meat, he leaned against the stone wall by the fire to rest his eyes. On such a freezing, snowy day, I feared his frail body wouldn't be able to hold out. I touched his hand and sure enough, it was cold. I snuggled up to him and wrapped my arms around his slender waist. This man looks so delicate. Yet, I never expected him to have abdominal muscles. The ninth prince seemed to notice something and opened his eyes. Wei, I'm just helping you warm up, Ziyu. The ninth prince seemed to catch his breath. His body seemed a little warmer than before. He didn't speak, so I assumed he had fallen back asleep. I looked up to check on him and caught him staring deeply at me, the tips of his ears slightly red. I was overjoyed. His complexion looked much better than before. Ziyu, are you feeling any warmer? The ninth prince gave a slight nod. Yes, I slept soundly through the night. When I woke up in the morning, we were still holding each other. I lifted my head slightly to look at the ninth prince, and he happened to be looking down at me. But I noticed faint, dark circles under his eyes. Did you not sleep well? Could it be that my snoring kept him awake? The ninth prince's lips curled up. I slept very well, feeling my cheeks heat up under his gaze. I quickly got up and moved to the cave entrance. If I stayed in his arms any longer, I would have burst into flames. Looking outside, I realized people were coming. Ziyu, someone is here. Besides my brother, there was one other person I never expected to see. It was actually Princess Zhaoyang. When Princess Zhaoyang saw that the ninth prince and I were still alive, she was visibly relieved, but the words that left her lips were, "Oh, so you're still alive then." I curtsied, sincerely thanking her. Princess Zhaoyang, you are of noble birth, yet you came yourself to such a dangerous place to lead the search. I am deeply moved by your gesture. I came to save the ninth prince, not you. The ninth prince gave a light cough and smiled as he thanked Princess Zhaoyang. My thanks to you, little sister Zhaoyang. Hearing him cough, my heart tightened with worry. Your Highness, the prince has caught a chill. We must call for an imperial physician at once. Princess Zhaoyang's expression turned complex as she glanced at me. I have brought the physician from the princess's estate. Let them examine the ninth prince. I was baffled. While the princess's own physician was certainly skilled enough, why couldn't we use an imperial one? My brother stepped forward to explain. The crown prince fell from his horse yesterday and suffered a head injury. All the imperial physicians are currently at the Eastern Palace. I furrowed my brow. Are you worried about the crown prince? No, I just think he needs to practice more. He only causes trouble. The ninth prince straightened his posture, the disappointment in his eyes melting away like ice. Could it be? Was he jealous just now? I forgot to look away for a moment. Princess Zhaoyang's eyes darted between us in a gossipy fashion, a knowing smile suddenly appearing on her face. The ninth brother and his bride-to-be are truly very affectionate. I still prefer you when you're being so rebellious. The ninth prince chuckled and took my hand. I followed close behind him, step by step. 3 days later, the crown prince awoke. I never imagined he would show up in my courtyard. Hong Ying blocked his path. Your Highness, you are already betrothed to Miss Shen. My mistress is also betrothed to the ninth prince. For you to trespass into her courtyard now risks damaging her reputation. The crown prince's eyes were cold enough to kill. Move. I must see Wei. The young lady doesn't love you anymore, yet here you are, pestering her. Even though Hong Ying was terrified, she stood her ground firmly before the crown prince. The crown prince looked furious. If you don't want me to kill you, get out of my way. I stepped out of the room and stood in front of Hong Ying. Hong Ying, you may step back. Yes, my lady. You dog of a crown prince, always taking your anger out on others. If this were the modern era, you feudal remnant would be cancelled in modern times. By comparison, the ninth prince is so much more likable. Oh, right. Hurry and get 15 to find the ninth prince. Crown prince, is there something you need from me? I kept my head down the entire time. Zhao Xian stared at me, his demeanor humbled to the dust. Are you really so unwilling to even look at me now? As I lifted my gaze to meet his, a flicker of joy appeared in the depths of his eyes. I was somewhat surprised. I had never seen him look like this before. In the past, I surely would have softened. but this time, I would not. With that thought, I said in a deep voice, "Crown Prince, please show some self-respect. I am already betrothed to the 9th prince. I do not want to cause him any misunderstandings. Wei, I had a dream. In the dream, you begged the emperor to grant us a marriage. You became my crown princess, and later, when I ascended the throne, you became my empress, and then..." The crown prince seemed to recall something. His body swayed unsteadily. He did not continue. Of course, I knew what followed in the dream. It was when he slaughtered the 9 generations of my Chu family. The 9th prince suddenly appeared from somewhere, standing between the crown prince and me. I suddenly felt a sense of relief. The 9th prince lifted his chin slightly and said to the crown prince, "Your Highness, your crown princess is waiting behind you. Please stay away from my princess." Chu Xianwei had been standing behind us for quite some time, her face deathly pale, yet she still struggled to force a proper smile. "Crown Prince, I have been looking everywhere for you." The Crown Prince glanced at me with a complex expression, then turned around and left with Chu Xianwei. The 9th Prince looked at me with a serious expression. Wei, don't worry. The things Hong Ying spoke of will never happen. I will protect you forever, and your entire Chu family as well. In a flash, I realized, You can hear Hong Ying's inner voice too. Yes, Hong Ying was horrified and she asked weakly, You both heard it? Yes. Hong Ying's legs went weak, and had 15 not caught her, she would surely have collapsed to the ground. I don't want to live anymore. Why isn't my special gift the ability to hear other people's thoughts? Why is it that others can hear my thoughts? It is one thing if the young mistress hears them, but why did it have to be the devious 9th prince? Is he going to take this chance to kill me off? Hong Ying, I have always been a kind-hearted man. Do you have some kind of misunderstanding about me? He really heard it. I'm fainting. After saying that, Hong Ying didn't know whether she was truly fainting or just pretending. She lay in 15's arms, completely motionless. I suspect she is taking this opportunity to flirt with 15. 15 didn't know what was going on, and seeing Hong Ying suddenly collapse, his face turned pale with fright. "Hong Ying, what is wrong?" I couldn't bear to look for fear I would laugh out loud. 15, take Hong Ying away. Find a doctor to take a look at her. Thank you, my lady. I turned back and glared at the 9th prince. Don't you go scaring her. You just protect her. You don't have me in your heart at all. The 9th prince's eyes turned red, and he turned away. I want to faint too. I hurriedly grabbed his arm and shook it. I do. You fill my heart completely. Really. Truer than pearls. Not sincere enough. I thought for a moment, leaned in closer to him, and stood on my tiptoes. I wrapped my arms around his neck and gave him a light kiss. Is this sincere enough for you? 3 days later, on our wedding night, I couldn't help but mock him just like Hong Ying. Zhao Ziyu, you really are a schemer. Your frailty was actually all an act. All my schemes are reserved for my wife alone. In the darkness, his eyes were burning as he looked at me. A night like this is worth 1,000 gold pieces. My lady, let us not waste this beautiful spring night.